Spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you what Ro Sham Bo is. Fragility is inherent in so much that we take for granted. When I was a kid, a couple of friends and I used to produce our own primitive comedic works on video using our Super 8 camcorders. My friend Greg's camera was slightly newer and better than mine, but I'd figured out how to fire a single frame at a time on mine and film in stop motion, something that wasn't possible on his, so that was pretty cool. This one in particular wasn't a stop motion work, but one such project we produced in an afternoon. It was called the Ro Sham Bo TV show, a parody of the common game shows of the era. A purely reductive one, our show is nothing more than the bombastic host directing hapless guests into simply stepping up from their assigned seats to play rock, paper, scissors with one another in turns. The winner briefly exalted, then abruptly sent back to their seat on the side, the loser suffering embarrassing consequences, and the entire process soaked in gusto with a tempo and brevity that almost bordered on barbaric. The tape itself was lost to time and moving, but I can still remember the intro, for which we used a tight zoom on some kind of 8-mode flashing circle of lights intended to be hung in the window around Christmas time. This must have been in June or July or August, I don't know what it was doing there. Pulling out from the blur of the lights to Greg enthusiastically announcing the Ro Sham Bo TV show. My brother and Greg's brother were the first two hapless contestants. I don't remember what the loser's punishment was, but it may have involved some sort of light bodily harm or maybe a water balloon. We used both occasionally, both the harm and the balloons. The pratfalls were staged, of course. We, the four of us, had been taking drama classes after our normal school studies from a woman named Gail, who was classically trained at a clown school not far inland from where we lived, one that I sometime later learned is actually of some renown. And with her, we had learned how to do stage falls, fake slaps, and other more subtle techniques of the clown world and the human world that we probably all forgot because we were teenagers who liked goofing around. I remembered some of the stuff, and to this day I can fall on pavement and not harm myself. It's a cool trick sometimes. Anyway, the phrase Ro Sham Bo always stuck with me. Was this something that Greg had just made up, or was it actually some kind of alternate title for rock, paper, scissors? You might already know, and if you keep listening, you will soon. But for at least 25 years until earlier this evening, I never did. I'd sometimes think about Ro Sham Bo and wonder, was this term somehow European? Greg's family always had NPR's classical service playing on the radio, and they knew things. Well, I'm actually kind of dismayed to say that the same thoughts crossed my mind again earlier this evening, and perhaps, for the sake of this story, I went ahead and answered my questions with a few movements of my fingers on the keyboard, and now I know that Ro Sham Bo, normally spelled as one word, is another name for the hand game rock, paper, scissors, particularly used on the west coast of the United States. It is also sometimes spelled Ro Sham Bo in the French, or Ro Sham Bo, as three separate words. The term is said to be a reference to the Comte de Rochambeau, a French nobleman who fought in the American Revolutionary War. I probably pronounced that guy's name wrong just there. In an instant, I can know all there is to know about Ro Sham Bo, except for the specific part about the nobleman and the war. I learned that the link between him and the game doesn't really make sense. Some speculate the name comes from the idea that the game was used as a code word during the Revolutionary War, with Ro Sham Bo's name being used. However, historical evidence to support this claim is lacking. A mystery remains, a curiosity, but a distilled and packaged one that isn't my own. If I wanted, I could have gone down this informational rabbit hole and learned the subtleties and nuance around why or why not possibly this game was given this alternate title based on this French guy. I ask myself, am I any better for letting this ink spill? I'll forget the details, but I'll probably never forget the bullet point thesis of the term and its suspected origins. The older I get, the more I realize there's value in not knowing. To say that I've accidentally exterminated my wonder around this particular mundane and mostly meaningless topic sounds trite, but it speaks to a broader philosophy. Maybe the band Operation Ivy was even wiser than I could see when I first discovered them in the late 90s and got hooked by their first track on their self-titled album. Or maybe the album was called Energy, I don't remember. Anyway, the chorus on that track went something along the lines of, "All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing." And it was followed by a verse that said, "We get taught to decide, just like as if I'm not going to change my mind." Absence of curiosity implies rigidity, then maybe. In the end, does it really matter if I know Ro Sham Bo is real? Probably not. But the lesson lying within for me is that not every candle of wonder, not every little unchecked box that occasionally pops up in my mind as I'm going through my day, not every unknown needs to be known.